The Rebel Capitalist Show. A lot of people have been focused on the money printing and the Fed's balance sheet, Yaron, but I see this. I see obviously the bad side there, but I get really worried about more and more government intervention. And so we've got these bailouts. So the Fed is, let's say, intervening, but really it's the government as well. And now we've got the stimulus checks. We've got the PPP program. Yeah, I mean, you go down the laundry list. It just means more and more government. And I don't see how the economy is supposed to be increasingly more dynamic to grow while we're burdened with government. And it goes back to Atlas Shrugged. You'll see that Rand was talking about this, literally the exact same things that are going on right now in 1957. And in fact, Yaron, I want to show this to you, buddy. I bought this hat. Probably, you can tell how old it is. I work at the gym all the time, but I don't know if the viewers can see it there.
Atlas Shrugged, now nonfiction. I mean, that hat might have sold in 2008, 9, when, you know, everybody said, look, Atlas Shrugged is happening right now during the financial crisis. In a sense it was. And you could have even bought that hat in the 1970s when there was a sense that American society was falling apart. And even Ayn Rand thought that Atlas Shrugged, in a sense, was happening all around her. And it just gets worse, because today it certainly is going again. And look, I agree with you about everything you said. You know, when the government starts bailing everybody out, when the government starts deciding who the winners and losers are, when they distort prices, when they distort the allocation of capital, you don't get the kind of creative destruction that Schumpeter talked about. You don't get capital flowing to the most innovative, to the people who actually create growth. People don't talk about this, but the people who create economic growth, entrepreneurs, the business people, the people who create the jobs, the new products,
and more so even small and mid-sized business, not just these giant corporations.
The entire spectrum of it. And I'm not against giant businesses. I think giant businesses used to be small and they were successful. So good for them. As long as they don't lobby government to protect themselves, good for them, right? So I think every small business who's ambitious wants to be a big business. I just think business across the board is disincentivized from investing, innovating, producing. And then, of course, we have an education system that destroys the minds of young people. So how are they going to innovate when they can't think themselves out of a paper bag? And then but then I don't want to get the Fed off though, because the Fed is doing the same thing, right?
Right.
What does it mean that the Fed is printing money? If it was printing money and dropping it from helicopters, you know, I wouldn't care that much. I mean, I'd still care, right? But it wouldn't be that distorted. But what are they doing? They're buying specific assets. They're destroying the most important price in the economy. The most important price in the economy is the interest rate. There's no more important price than interest rate. That's the price of time and the price of money. And that every other price depends on interest rates. Yet they've destroyed the risk premium. They made all risky assets equal to or very similar to risk-free assets. There's no premium for riskiness. They've destroyed what it means to be a bond versus an equity. They destroyed what it means to be a treasury versus a corporate bond versus a high-yield bond. So they are unbelievably destructive, not only because they're printing money. The printing money is the least of the problem. It's how they're distributing that money and, again, bailing out. Because what do they do when they buy junk bonds? They're bailing out what we call zombie companies that should be dead and now can raise money in the bond market because the Fed will buy it. So they are literally, the Fed is propping up the bad and preventing the good from growing. So
and pushing everyone further out the risk curve. I mean, pension funds, now what they have to do to get yield is they have to go into private equity. They have to invest in companies like Nikola, which is infinitely worse than even Tesla. They have to go into WeWork. They have to go into SoftBank or whatever these things just to get a decent yield.
Yeah, perverts and destroys everything financial. And look, you cannot have a thriving economy. You cannot have economic growth and innovation and prosperity without a robust, free financial market. And the more controlled finances, the more controlled interest rates, yields, bond markets, stock markets, and corporate finances, the less able an economy is to grow properly. So the destruction is all around us, and it's very depressing. to look around and see where do we go from here, because there's no voice, not on the right, not on the left. There's no voice who's actually articulating the case for a free market, for more freedom, not less. For and I'm
Yeah.
not talking about dismantling the Fed, which is my ideal. Just return it to the old days when all it did was, the old days when they used to control the discount rate and, that was a Fed fund rate, and that was it. Now they control the entire yield curve.